Hey guys, I'm FatBuddyCat, and this is a wicked little mini bike. Well, I'm right in the thick of it, so you might as well jump in too. I'm trying to mount the Hisun 99 on the Coleman CT100U. What I'm looking for is adding the jackshaft this time around. We need to figure out the height to clear the cross member, so we're not going to be cutting that off, and this thing right now ends up right about there. That's using two billet plates. The bottom one is just a spacer. What I'm doing now is releasing the engine from the plate that does all the moving, and I'm going to add my aluminum spacers in between the plate and this section here. I'd call it the block, but it's more like an adapter. They're not tight. You want to be able to move it around. We have our 4 studs sticking out the bottom, and those are going to be going right through our spacer and those holes there. Remember, the billet plates go backwards on this one. I do believe we've got it. This goes up a little bit when it's tight. I still have to switch it to a number 35 sprocket, and I'll grab a section of chain and see if we make it up over that cross member. Yeah, we got all of that. If I hold the engine somewhat square, looks pretty straight there, and I put some tension on the chain, you can see we're about a fat inch from the bottom of the link to the top of the cross member. Once we're tightened down and everything's right where it needs to be, we may or may not cut that tab off. We're not going to be adding another chain guard, and the only thing I would have kept that for is a spring if we needed some sort of a tensioner hookup. The way this chain is so short, we might not need one at all. I'm about to cut this chain. I'm just trying to be a little more methodic. The jack shaft is adjustable. See how they're like little micro slots? And that is so that you can adjust the chain that attaches from the clutch here back to the input sprocket. You then slide the entire engine to put tension on your drive chain. I have this where it's going to be at its tightest position, and I have the engine pulled all the way back. So if I leave myself one link long, I know I can pull the engine forward and take the slack out. this plate could come back and that would loosen this chain. Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do, because if we add a chain here and we can't make the loop, we go back, and then we know the chain's long enough no matter what, because we're already in the back position and we can move forward. It's a lot to think about at once, but we're going to go for it. The chain is officially on. Now I just have to figure out where the engine's going to go. It's a little bit over that away, and then just pulling it forward for tension right now. Not too shabby. That's just the brake squeaking. You get a nice smooth roll. I pulled it forward so that it was nice and tight, and then I just backed it off. I still have to find the proper hardware. These two on top are correct, and the two on the bottom are long. We're not going to add the clutch or the input sprocket yet, because we still want to start this engine. I did install the fuel tank. I had to go back to the 3x8 for a little project we'll be doing up here. But other than that, just have to get that fuel line hooked up, get a header put on. We're switching to that right side, or I guess it would be left side, straight back, you know, the one with the little mini 91. I'll just stick it on there. That's the one. I also replaced that hardware, spaced out the clutch, and tightened my bolt on the end of the output shaft. The reason being, the last thing we're going to do tonight is put the fan shroud recoil starter on. While we're in there, we're going to hook up our kill switch. We have this wire that's going to attach to the coil, and other than that, what you should know, remember the coil was spaced out, and I said there's some spacers to go with the fan shroud. That way it gets our starter where it needs to be. Just have some longer bolts. I have 3 of the spacers. I lost one of them. I found a nut that is basically the same width, and my threads pass right through it, so that'll work like a spacer for the one that's missing. Good thing I didn't throw that away and have to steal it off one of my Predator 79s. This is the wire that goes from the coil to the kill switch. I thought it was the same as the one I had plugged into the Clone 196 before, and it's not. It's actually a slightly smaller plug. So, I'm gonna have to wire that in somehow. Looks like somebody was thinking ahead. You can just plug this right in. Yep. We have a pull starter, fan shroud, and also a double kill switch. Tomorrow morning, we'll plumb this thing up, find a place for our external PCV, and then I think we are going to be able to fire this thing up. The linkage. Oh yeah. We're going to need the Hornet release. Positive vibes, man. First thing in the morning. The fuel line that I used with the stock carburetor worked fine here too. Just added a couple of those little zip ties on each end. Snip them off. She's done. I'm using a Predator 79 fan shroud starter as well. The reason being, it already has the stock linkage removed, and it has this hole drilled in it. We're going to be utilizing the OMB Warehouse Mikuni linkage, and it has two holes. One of them goes right where there's some threads for a bolt, and when you try to line up the other one, you can see it misses. So I just drilled right through it. Had the fan shroud and the starter all as one. Just sitting on bench top, hold the linkage to it, and literally did a pilot hole, and then whatever size drill bit for the bolt. You don't have to tap it because we're going to be using a threaded insert. This is going to go over the hole, and it'll allow you to attach the linkage to the starter. The reason you want the hole to go through the starter and the fan shroud is so that the tip of the bolt that you use passes through the linkage, the first half of the insert, then it goes through the starter, out the other side of the insert, and the tip will go just barely through the fan shroud. If you didn't do that and you only went through the starter with your hole, when you start feeding the bolt in, it would push against the fan shroud, right? And it would cause these two to separate. Genius. The one on the left is how they come, and this one is how we need them to be. I just cut it close with a pair of snips and then finished it off with Kyle the file. The flat face is going to go on the outside. We have a bolt here, one under here, and another one there. Make sure those are out, or at least loose enough that you can pull away. You can see my hole on the back side. I didn't just drill this, it's been there. So now I'll stick this on, probably use a screwdriver to pry it open and get the party started. Here it is with the bolt passing through the insert and then into the fan shroud. I just found a pair of matching length 8mm bolts here. Put a lock washer on them, and that's all we need to hold this thing on. You're not going through, a 1/4 inch of material here. Just a few threads. I think I said stock carb before. No wonder this fits. We had a 196 on here with a Wildcat WC22 carb, so it was kind of sitting over here somewhere anyway. It's also the reason half of our linkage already works. We just need to get from here into here. The PZ19 has a round slide, a needle, spring, cap, even the Mikuni throttle cable end. So, nothing new here. Yep. I think I'm going to add that gasket I made in between the carburetor and the manifold. Other than that, a little bit of fuel. Should be good to start this thing. These PZ19s have a gasket also like a Mikuni, so this is over the top. I'm basically using it because I made it, and if I don't, it's going to be a waste. Looks like I have it upside down. I'll flip it over and then make sure everything lines up. Much better. Big thanks to DirtFoot Racing and the short PZ19 manifold. I'm just using a small 8mm wrench, and I'm able to remove this carburetor. I could get the manifold off, so if we had to do a jet swap, a carb swap, whatever, it can be taken apart separately. You don't have to take the whole thing off. When we put a rear fender on, it's going to protect the filter even more. We're not in the way of anything. It has a nice tuck to it where it's just barely outside of the starter cover there, but that's just the filter. The carb itself is actually, right in line. So, looking good. Little liquid gold, and I just took about 10 inches out of the PCV line. I have absolutely no idea where we are on the carburetor tuning. I have my weapons of choice. Turn the gas on and make sure nothing's leaking. The adjusters for this are over here. We have an air, fuel, and an idle. Okay, so here we are. Zero adjustment. Turn the choke on. Switches. The clutch isn't hooked up to a chain. I don't have the overflow on there, but if anything comes out, it'll end up over here anyway. Like we need an adjustment. I just opened up the circuit to add a little bit of fuel. It seems as if we were all the way in. So we're probably going to have to bring the idle up. Definitely going to have to bring it up. Number 88. Get tuned up a little bit. Check that plug. Might have to adjust the needle. That's crazy. My 79 was set up with an 80. I'm gonna check the idle, but it wouldn't stay running. More gas, I guess? $34 on the pilot and $90 on the main. I still haven't touched the needle. Brought the idle down a little bit, tightened up on the mix. That's a tough call right there. I feel like that's heavy on the main. 90? $20 cc, that's all we're dealing with. But we brought the compression up. And we're not using a cam. We don't have the duration. Not that it's all that much, but usually you pick this stuff up at idle and you would know, because she's gonna foul. That's when it's gonna happen, when it loads right up. Oh yeah, we're burning some fuel. Now I'm up to a 98, and I still don't see any color on this plug. I think our idle circuit is just way too lean. No wonder the jetting was so far off. My needle on the float valve was not opening all the way. So it was only dripping from the inlet into the bowl. It wasn't a constant flow. I'm back to the stock pilot jet, and I'm running a number 80 on the main. It's been idling for about 3 minutes. That's what Daddy likes. Yeah, buddy. One more look at the plug. And we're better a little rich than a little lean. And I don't think we're lean. Cool, man. Alright, we've had the plug out. It's back in. It's had time to cool down. Turn the gas on. On. Choke. About as low as I could get it. Well, it looks like we've got ourselves a runner. And a good one, too. Up next, we're going to swap the tires out for something a little more traditional. And then, we're going to change the ergonomics of this wicked little mini bike. Because as always, it's a work in progress. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching. And I'll catch you on the next one.
I want you to stay, I want you to stay.